Okay, welcome back to Finding Her Voice, a podcast about women in film by women who love film. As always, I am joined by Editor-in-Chief Gabrielle Bondi and film and television writer AJ Caulfield to highlight, celebrate, and discuss films directed by women. From the very best and most significant in the cinematic canon to personal, underseen favorites, our hope is to touch upon as many films and talents as we can that may be undervalued and or hopefully provide listeners to more options to add to their watch list for the 52 Films by Women Challenge. For this episode, we'll be talking about women and sexuality in film with the upcoming comedy Blockers, which centers on a group of parents trying to stop their daughters from losing their virginity. Sex is a tricky subject for filmmakers to handle delicately when it comes to women. They're fine using them as sex objects or submissive partners, but God forbid they're seen to explore and enjoy it with the same level of gusto as men in film. Before we kind of dive into that, though, with our two films, Fish Tank and The Runaways, our opening question is kind of an obvious one, I think, and I feel like we've touched upon it, but maybe not in depth. But who are your first big movie crushes / awakenings, however you want to put it? Gabby, can you talk about yours first?
It's so good. It's so good.
Okay, so mine was Joaquin Phoenix and Signs. Don't touch me. But it's such a weird pick, and I understand that. But I had found like lots of celebrities cute before, like Ricky Martin, Leonardo DiCaprio. But Joaquin was probably like my first like awakening crush. And I became obsessed with him for a long time. And I'm like a monogamous crusher, so I only like crushed on one person at a time. I was very committed, and so I went down like his IMDb and like saw all of his movies, and then I watched all of his brother's movies, River Phoenix. So I'm just like really like committed to that family, and I think the actor that made me finally move on from him was Jake Gyllenhaal, who I saw in The Day After Tomorrow. Again, don't judge me. So yeah, that's my first awakening, which is I don't have nothing else to say.
I think those are all fair. I only saw Signs though for the first time last year, so I kind of missed the benchmark for Joaquin Phoenix, I feel like, because I'm used to him kind of like grizzled or awkward or weird. It's like I got into him when he was in his phase where he was just being artistic, or I saw him in Braveheart, and like nobody's attracted to him in Braveheart, right? Like,
he's in Braveheart?
Right?
Gladiator.
Not Braveheart. I'm mixing it up with freaking Gladiator because
I was like, he's in Braveheart.
I was like, wait.
We were talking about this the other day about how they used to show those two movies to us in our history classes because they're relevant, I guess. So I just got them mixed up, but I definitely meant Gladiator. However, Joaquin Phoenix is in a movie with Mel Gibson, which is Signs, so there is a connection. But AJ, do you want to touch on yours? Because I feel like I have a lot or two in similar.
Mm-hmm. So beyond the obvious kind of easy one, Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, when I was 11, The Sandlot 2. It's not a good movie, but for me, I was just taken by Max Lloyd-Jones, and he played the main character, David Durango. And one of the main plot points is David wanting to get Haley Goodfair, played by Samantha Burton, to notice him and like reciprocate his crush. But they're both like young, so they're not really kind of understanding communication. But I remember watching it and just having these heart eyes for David, but also understanding why he was so kind of like infatuated with Haley. Obviously, I didn't realize like what that meant. But I just remember being like, oh, I think he's really cute, and I understand why he wants to be close to her. So I think that was like pivotal for me. And then also just Bill Hader in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I understand that he's not like your typical good-looking man, but I think he is adorable. He's my on-screen husband. I love everything he's ever done. And also Eliza Dushku in Bring It On. But you guys know that.
Yeah, that's like a really good one that I didn't even think of until I saw you write it.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, like that's
And
I feel like a lot of girls watching that were kind of like, hey.
You're like, hey. And also, I know, and this just popped into my head when Gabby said going down his IMDb page and watching other movies. I did that with Zac Efron after Hairspray. Don't judge me. I watched Summerland.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah, because I was like,
High School Musical.
after High School Musical and after Hairspray, I was like, Link Larkin.
When he sang Without You, I fell in love in such a hard way that I understand.
I felt it in my skeleton.
Oh my God, Summerland just brought back such
memories.
Similar. So I wasn't gonna mention this one on mine just because, but you mentioned The Sandlot. One of my first loves was Benny from the first one.
Oh my God, yes.
I think that's obvious. And then, like, for his crushes was Ralph Macchio.
I like how we don't.
That's good. That's good.
From The Karate Kid. And I just, like, loved him. And his girlfriend was named Allison. And then I watched the 2 sequels that just got increasingly embarrassing. And my crush violently died. But, for Awakenings. Sorry. I'm laughing at the Ralph Macchio. I'm hoping there's somebody out there that understands it. But mine were both in like the Lord of the Rings canon. And I think there's a distinction between like preteen and teen. Because preteen, Legolas like jumps off his horse in the first scene he's in, and I like gasped. And then because I thought he was beautiful. And then when you get a little bit older, in the Two Towers, Aragorn comes back from like being on the brink of death and pushes the doors open. And all of a sudden I realized what it was meant. It meant to like be in love with a man. Because I was like, it's gorgeous. And then towards the end of like, I don't know, teenage and then like I saw Scarlett Johansson in Match Point, and I know that's Woody Allen film. I was a teenager and I didn't know better, but like I just found her ridiculously attractive and had a huge crush, and she was my IMDb. Her and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I went down the IMDb pages for those 2 people, and there's nothing that relates them at all. But I was just like, I need to watch more of them. But yeah, so see, we all have embarrassing crushes in our past, and it's cool. One of them can be a Karate Kid. One of them can be from a sequel I didn't know existed. So I think it's good. But to move on, I guess, into our actual topic, we watched The Runaways and Fish Tank, and I know both of you guys hadn't seen Fish Tank. I'm wondering if we all saw The Runaways kind of close to when it came out, because I know I watched it because I was curious if Kristen Stewart could act. And I did. I thought she could in The Runaways, and it kind of proved me wrong. But so both treat the female characters leading their own stories with agency, even as they make potentially life-altering mistakes. I think it's obvious in The Runaways that sexuality is kind of treated with more positivity, whereas Fish Tank, you kind of see more of the pitfalls of what it means to be a young, impressionable teenage girl kind of looking for validation in an older, creepy guy. So I don't know, first, if you guys just want to talk about how you liked the film, specifically Fish Tank. Anyone?
Well, Allie, I can't really hear you. I think you're breaking up really bad.
Oh, fuck. 1 second. Hello?
Are you talking right now, or okay?
Yeah, I can hear her.
Yeah, you're like going in. Oh, you can hear it her fine on your end.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to see if it's my fault or if it's whose fault.
It was breaking up.
Internet's
better?
at fault here.
1 second.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I thought you said you couldn't.
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Okay. So
yeah, you're breaking up.
I'm breaking up?
Are you laughing? Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I could hear like there's a big lag between my voice and my echo on your side.
can hear both of you fine.
I'm just trying to think of a way to solve it. Because Gabby, you can't hear me still. Shit. Let me mark where we are. There's no minutes to mark it.
Yeah, it was like when you started going into Fish Tank, it was like it got like a little, you started going in and out a lot, so I don't know. I mean, AJ, were you able to hear Allison perfectly fine?
There was only like maybe a minute that it was a little bit like crunchy. And then it was fine.
Okay.
And I can hear both of you perfectly fine right now.
Internet.
Well, because she could hear me fine up until
now you're kind of going in and out for me too. Let
me look at my end too.
And I know I always get echo from one side, but I just kind of like block that out.
I can hear you better now. How about Allie? Talk.
Hi. Does it work?
Oh my God. Yes, it works. Okay, I'm using my neighbor's Wi-Fi now. It works better.
Okay. So I'll just go through and get the minutes for that and have Evan.
I'm so sorry.
Hopefully cut it for me.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I'm sorry. I was just really
it's fine. I assumed it was mine. Mine usually craps out on me. So no worries. I'm glad it wasn't me for once. So I guess hopefully they'll be able to hear in the recording, but all I was saying was before we get into like specific questions, just did you guys like Fish Tank, having both seen it for the first time?
Yes.
Yes, I liked it a lot.
I think that as with a lot of films that are, I guess, not really marketed, but they're known for depicting female sexuality, I liked that Fish Tank. It wasn't just all about female sexuality. There was a lot of other nuances in it. And even though certain parts were, uncomfortable and difficult to watch, I enjoyed that it was about more than just one thing, that it was complex. I think it would be a good story, regardless.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I asked because I was talking to my boyfriend who hated this film, and we're pretty on the same level most of the time. And I do wonder if it's one of those things, if like it's a perspective thing, like maybe we were able to kind of project more onto it. I know it's not necessarily that we've lived this specific life, but I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. So I was curious if maybe more people dislike it than I realize.
I definitely think it's not like an easy movie to like, but I kind of like AJ. I liked its complexity because it really, it was, kind of focusing on this, sexual awakening for her. But at the same time, there's all these other things happening in her life, and they all kind of contribute to that, especially to that moment, the climax of the film, where she has sex with Michael Fassbender. Sorry for the spoiler. Can we talk spoilers?
Yes. I think any film that's come out more than a year ago, we can talk spoilers.
Okay. So it's uncomfortable and it's terrible, but the movie kind of pretty much tells you it's going to lead up to that. And again, it's just like you see how all these different factors in her life kind of help like make her get to that moment. And it's confusing and just, tough to swallow. And I think it allows the audience to kind of kind of conflate with her character and feel those similar feelings of discomfort and like, what the hell? And I don't know what I want or if this is right and all these different things.
I agree. And it kind of leads into one of the questions what that was, despite how painful it is to kind of watch Fish Tank, like, I don't know about you, but I kind of watched it like feeling like I was white knuckling it the whole time, just because you always are waiting for something bad to happen. And not just from the, relationship aspects, but just her life's hard. But are there positives from getting to watch her sexual self-discovery play out honestly, despite the fact that it leads to some pretty grim outcomes?
Yeah, because I think, unfortunately, like this is sort of like a reflection of a reality for many young women, poor women who, grew up in these, projects and, you know, the men around them are not exactly the greatest people and they're not really quite sure what to do with these new feelings they have. And yeah, I mean, I think, as uncomfortable it is, I think what makes it uncomfortable is how real it feels. And that's why it was tough to watch.
And I think that there are two things that really contribute to the honesty that we see in the film. I think Andrea Arnold, with a lot of her films, especially American Honey, she has a way of kind of focusing on the character that you're meant to be kind of connecting with. And she focuses so like directly on them and doesn't really shift perspective too much to where the audience, as you're watching, you're kind of, it's that like anticipation and the white knuckling that you mentioned of like you're waiting for something bad to happen or something like chaotic to just burst forth because you're not getting all the information. And I think that makes it a lot more honest. You're kind of inside her head a little bit. And maybe that's easier for women to do because, we have that connection with the female character. But I think her direction in particular really helps paint it in a more honest way and a more harrowing way. But I think that, again, it's important to see that. And the second thing is Katie Jarvis, who plays Mia. She is a young mother. She got pregnant at 16 and has a child. And so she kind of mirrors a little bit of what we see. And I think she probably brought a lot of her own experience to the performance, which I think boosts the authenticity.
I think also it's I don't always think non-actors lend that much authenticity. I think it's kind of a mixed bag when that happens, but I do think in this case, casting an amateur actress in this role was a stroke of luck. And I think and I think the level of authenticity that she brings to the performance also helps us get through those uncomfortable moments because they feel honest. And I think if it felt anything other than honest, those uncomfortable moments would turn into something more not mean-spirited, but something more threatening or something more abrasive, whereas it's hard to watch and it's uncomfortable to watch and you always are feeling bad for her, but it never feels like an attack on a female character, so to speak. It feels more like a here's what happened sometimes and it's terrible. You can relate to it or not, but at least we're telling our truth. And I think by having her in it, it really helped. I don't know if like a more polished performer could have made it feel the same way.
Yeah.
And do you guys think, I know I'm kind of skipping around, but because we got on this train of thought, do you guys think that if it had been a male filmmaker, would equal blame have been placed on both parties? Because I feel like it's very much saying like, sure, she partaked in having sex with Michael Fassbender's character, but he's the adult. He knows that's wrong. And yet I feel like in the hands of somebody else, they might have been like, well, she did do it. Whereas I think we're supposed to be like, no, she's a kid. she doesn't know any better, and she's just looking for this validation, and she sought it out, and she's trying to like get back at her mom and all these things. But you clearly see by the end of the film that she was not equipped to handle this at all. And that's why she lashes out the way that she does. And she lashes out in ways that are very childish. So I feel like we're really lucky that this story was told by a woman, because I think otherwise we might have been saying like, well, let's split our sympathy. And I don't think we're supposed to.
Yeah, I think we've seen it a lot in other films that, you know, a younger girl is more, you know, curious about sexuality.
Or she's an actress.
Exactly. Or she, you know, she's more promiscuous. Like, I hesitate to use that word, but I think that other filmmakers would have placed a lot more blame on her, saying she's the one that tempted him, and, you know, she knew what she was doing, and kind of taking blame off of the adult and being like, well, he couldn't help himself, and like, what do you expect? Like, he's a man, and that's like really gross to think about. But
boys will be boys.
Exactly. And it's like, no, she doesn't. She is a child, and she really does not know what she's doing, or getting herself into, in terms of everything that comes with, you know, engaging in something like that, especially with Mr. Old Man Michael Fassbender. He's not that old, like, in comparison.
Yeah, but he certainly has that level of like being an adult who knows that it's wrong, and having that much, you know, makes it wrong immediately, no matter how like old you are. Yeah, Gabby, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he was, I mean, I think if the movie was directed by a man, I think he would have shifted the focus a little bit more on Fassbender's perspective. I think it wouldn't have been so singularly and like intensely focused on the girl. So I just think that would have played a major difference in how the audience viewed the situation, and would kind of split, you know, blame. I hate saying that word, but it's really all his fault. I mean, he's a father too, which you find out. And I mean, he knows better. He clearly knew better. And he did it anyway. So I really don't fault her at all. She's just young. I mean, as you said, she lashes out in childish ways. I mean, she's, you know, I mean, it was just completely inappropriate on his part. And we all knew it was coming. And I think that's why I was so like, oh God, you know, it's like that kind of like created a lot of tension in the film, just knowing that there was an undercurrent between them. You knew was very, very wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, even with you saying that it would have shifted the focus on like whose story was kind of told, it would also change the focus on how both of them were just strictly shot. Like, Michael Fassbender very much is being presented as this like sex object in the film. Like, the way he's shot, like there's this kitchen scene where he's just like in his low-hung jeans or whatever, and you're seeing him through the prism that like she would be seeing him in. And we don't get that. It's like literally the female gaze. We don't get that often. It's so obviously flipped in most cases. And I feel like if it had been the other way around, again, we would have seen her as being like this, like a teaser, you know, something with that obviously is alluring to this older guy. And I just think there, in so many ways, we're lucky that this film was directed by a woman. In so many ways. I think directed by a man, it could have potentially been like wicked skeezy and uncomfortable, and I just wouldn't have liked it. I don't think. I'm gonna wager a guess. But so what I'd wanted to talk about at the beginning, but Fish Tank kind of, there's a lot to talk about with Fish Tank, but when is the first time in a film that you saw female sexuality being presented either positively or at the very least accurately?
So I thought that I couldn't remember exactly when, but then I thought harder, and it was in 2012, which isn't that long ago, which is kind of disappointing, but it was For a Good Time Call. It's directed by a man, but it's written by Lauren Miller and Katie Ann Nalon, based on their like real life experiences. Ari Grainer and Lauren Miller are the two main characters. They play Katie and Lauren, and I don't want to spoil it because it's actually a really, really good film. In summation, I guess it's about female sexuality and also not, because it explores everything that kind of comes with it. Self-esteem and confidence and, the version of ourselves that we present to the outside world and the version of ourselves that we know we actually are, and kind of just getting through that. And the way that female sexuality is portrayed is, it's in a way where you can feel confident in your body and in who you are. And you're not being shamed for, neither of the characters are being shamed for their inexperience, or if they're more eager to kind of engage in sexual relationships. It's not you're bad because of that, and it's not you're good because you are a little bit shyer in that way. I don't know. It's just a really good film, and I think a lot of the reason why I like it is because it's written by two women. I think that had one of them or both of them directed it, it would have been that much better. But I think the heart of it, and it lies in the story.
I haven't seen that one. I actually have to add that to my list now.
I have watched it so many times. It's so good.
It's really funny. I watched it like for the first time a few months ago, and it was a good like late night, just want to like chill and just watch something funny, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Like, I don't know. It's just like a feel good movie.
No, I need more of those.
Yeah.
So right now I'm kind of embedded in these like dark, serious films, so I need that. So I'll go into mine because I really had trouble thinking about it, and I don't know if it's because it's things that I wouldn't have picked up on when I was younger anyway. Like I wasn't seeking it out, and I didn't realize that how female sexuality was being presented in film was wrong. So I'm thinking more recently, because it's when I started, or at least within the last 5 years, because it's when I started paying more attention. So one of them I thought of was Slums of Beverly Hills by Tamara Jenkins, and it stars Natasha Lyonne. And it just really presents teenage girls in a kind of frank way, like, and how awkward they are, and how, when you start like realizing what goes along with sex, sometimes you're both like curious but also like why. And I just feel like it just presents it in a way that's more honest than when they're usually used strictly as being like the person to be desired. But I also, honestly, I think The Runaways was one of the first ones, because I saw it a while ago, because it would have been when Twilight was big. And I just feel like they presented, once again, it wasn't just like talking about women having sex. It was talking about like women experiencing pleasure too, which I think is so rarely talked about that it kind of shocked me at first when I was watching. And then now I can be like, well, that was wrong. I should have realized it was fine. But so those two, I think, were two of the first, along with like But I'm a Cheerleader, which also has Natasha Lyonne in it. But Gabby, I haven't seen your pick either.
So Real Women Have Curves. I watched it. I remember it like received a ton of buzz on Entertainment Tonight of all places when it first came out, and my mom didn't really want to see it, so I kind of had to wait until it hit cable a few years later, and I watched it, and I really liked it. I didn't really watch it with like kind of like this, I don't know, sense of like trying to understand what its deeper message is, until I actually rewatched it last night because I read an article of someone like saying that Lady Bird was like is a lot like the movie. Like they were trying to say that Lady Bird like stole from Real Women Have Curves.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay,
yeah, I read that too.
So I was like, I'm like, really? Because they felt different to me. So I watched them, and I think they are different enough to not say that it stole from it. I just think that it's a common enough experience having a bad relationship with your mother, or at least a tense one with your mom. So, but I just think that in regards to like exploring your sexuality, I mean, Anna's so domineering. She does not care about what her mother thinks or what like her community or their values are about sex and purity and remaining a virgin until marriage. She knows right away like that, that's bullshit. Like she's gonna do whatever she wants to do, and she does. And I think you don't really get those kind of you don't really get a lot of like Latina depictions that aren't overly sexualized or like, on the other end of the spectrum, like completely pure and virginal. So like she's kind of in between. She's just saying like, to hell with all that. Like I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do what feels right to me, and that's what she does. And I think that's really like refreshing, especially just amongst all the movies we have offered to us. So yeah.
That's a good point with her kind of taking charge and being like a middle ground for a type of character that usually would be on one end of the spectrum and never in between. And this is another movie that I will write down to watch.
Because it's directed by a woman, so you must watch it.
I know. And this is one where like it's been on my radar, but I've just never gone out of my way to see it. And I feel like I should, especially so I too can have like an opinion on the Lady Bird thing. Since I feel like if I'd seen Lady Bird as a teen, like my appreciation of it would have remained, but it would have been for different reasons. So I assume they're close in that aspect. So moving on to The Runaways, I know we'd all seen it before. I really liked it when I first watched it. I think I liked it mostly for Kristen Stewart and how it treated female characters and their exploration, both in like self-discovery and sexual discovery. So did you two like the film beyond kind of the themes? Like, was it as good as the sum of its parts, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I like The Runaways. I mainly saw it too because I was a big Twilight fan at the time, so I watched any movie that had like the actors in it.
Yeah.
So,
I get it. That's why I did it too.
And my one friend had a huge crush on Kristen Stewart, so she was like really counting down for this one. So we saw it at the theater, and I really enjoyed it. I think like overall it's a entertaining film. I mean, I can't say that like it's one of my favorite of all times, but I guess I don't know. I mean, I do appreciate its themes. It's like you said, its exploration of like being, young women, their sexuality, the time period, what they were setting out to do, which was so, like literally rare at the time. I don't think anyone was doing what they were doing. So, as far as rock and roll is concerned, so yeah, I mean, I guess I appreciate the themes like more so now than I did back then. But I don't know. I guess I haven't felt like the need to revisit the film. So I don't know. It's kind of I don't know if I'm being like coherent in my opinion right now.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's a middle of the road film for me too, and I feel like those films are the hardest to like muster up like a huge amount of enthusiasm for, but I do think it's one of those films also that in hindsight means a little bit more than they did at the time. Because again, like the shower scene where one of the girls is like teaching the other girls how to like masturbate. It's like when you're a teen, you're kind of just like awkward watching it. Or at least I was, because I was a dweeb. And like, and you're just like, oh, is this something like this is a weird part of the film, whatever. And now as I get older, I'm like, oh, that's really important to discuss ever, that it's a thing that exists. But again, like it can have that moment that's important, but it can also just be a kind of meh film. It was a film that proved to me that Kristen Stewart had talent that lay beyond Twilight, which hadn't been fully proved. I hadn't like really come along to her, and it kind of took really until the last couple of years for me to really buy it anyway. But that was one of the first indicators to me that if she was given the right character, she could excel. But I definitely agree. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of waiting around like, yeah, it's good. But AJ, unless AJ, you loved it and now I feel like a dick.
No, I completely agree. I think when you kind of like break it down, and it's one of the only films that I look at and I'm like, okay, I really like this chunk and this chunk and this chunk and this chunk, but then it just doesn't come together. So it's good, but it's not great. And it's kind of frustrating because I think there are so many themes that are important and so many moments that you're like, yes, good, amazing. And you're like, but all the middle stuff is like just all right. So yeah, it's very like average, kind of meh.
Meh.
Overall.
Really good way to just describe it.
Yeah. But it's themed. Great.
And Gabby, this is so sidebar, but because we also went and just watched these films with whatever films the 2 stars were in, did you end up watching The Cake Eaters too?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay. Okay. We went down the same rabbit hole.
Oh man, I think all Twilight fans can agree that we watched them all.
We watched some bad films. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys wanted to specifically talk about either Fish Tank or The Runaways before I kind of get into the last bits here, or last questions at least.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, because the next thing is just off topic from the other films, but what annoys you the most on how women's sexuality is or isn't represented in film? And I asked this specifically because my annoyance is that, and it's to this day, it's still hard to come by, where you see a female character that is as interested in it or engaged with it as men. It's like you never see rarely. And I mean, we have the Amy Schumer characters of the world where she's a bit more like sexually liberated, or we have like the rare independent films where they explore it. But I feel like on a wide scale media platform, it's still hard to see films where women are actively interested in sex and it's not the other way around. And I feel like I saw, AJ, you noted My Mad Fat Diary. I think that's the title. And I remember that being one of the first things I saw that actually showed women like being curious and seeking it out. So I know that's a grievance I have beyond things like women are still shot literally how the camera follows them as sex objects 9 out of 10 times. But this one's just kind of a personal little, like, I've seen so many goddamn sex comedies just because of the era we kind of grew up in, you know, like with the Seth Rogens and such. And I feel like it'd be nice to flip the script. And I think it'd be, you know, fresh. But I don't know if you two have any like specific ones too.
Mine is really. Sorry, we don't
go. It's fine.
Okay. It's just because mine's really similar to yours. I've noticed that women are either like faking that they really don't care about, like, oh, no strings attached, like it's fine, like I'm chill, I'm a cool girl, like I'm not gonna get attached, but really they're like pretending, and they're falling in love with the guy, and he ends up breaking her heart because of the miscommunication. So that like really bothers me, that they have to pretend to be interested in just like a casual thing, or they take it to the other extreme where it's they don't care at all about the emotion that might go along with it, and they take kind of casual sex as I'm going to be cold-hearted and ruthless and just not care about the other person, even on just like a human to human level. So that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But another big one is female sexuality, and also it's in queer sexuality, of it being linked to pain or emotional trauma, or you have to kind of experience like really devastating heartache for, you know, exploring your sexuality to mean anything. And I would like to see more of it just being, it's just an exploration, and it can be happy and sad and messy like it is in real life. And you don't have to be hurt by what you're going through for it to mean something.
That's a really good point that, I mean, I've thought of on the macro scale, I guess, in terms of like, why are all these LGBTQ stories ending in trauma? Like, this is really depressing, but not in the sense that like for your love to mean something, it has to be validated by pain. Like, that's a really interesting point. And you're right. I feel like you can count only a few stories. Love, Simon being one of them.
Right.
Where there's a happy ending.
Like,
so.
yes, thank you.
Oh, that movie made me cry. But a lot of movies are doing that, so who knows? But Gabby, is there something that you've picked up on too that just really frustrates you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with like AJ, like how they present these two extremes. Like you're either like cool about being casual or you're pretending to be cool about being casual. Like you could be either or. And I mean, sometimes it just depends on the guy or where you are in your life. Like honestly. Anyway, but besides that, I feel like what I like about my Mad Fat Diary is that it kind of depicts Ray as like a person who's very eager for sexual experience, and she's, I mean, it's sort of like it's funny, but at the same time, it's just like relatable, like how like aggressive she can be in her fantasies and stuff like that. But then once it comes to the real life, she kind of like clams up in nervousness, you know. And I think that's just really realistic. And I feel like I wish, again, just that's what I appreciate the most. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're with a new partner, I mean, I think there is like a sense of nervousness there. And I don't think we always see that in film. So I don't know. Yeah, that's really all I have to say.
It's rarely shown as being awkward.
Yeah.
Or like realistically awkward, not just like for cheap laughs.
Right.
And I do think that would add a lot, but I also think it'd make a lot of people in the audience be like, I don't want to see this. like I'm coming here for escapism. But I do think I would like that more. But is there a filmmaker that you guys have picked up on that kind of consistently represents female sexuality or just sexuality in general, I guess, well? Because this was another one that I had a hard time, mainly because I feel like when they do it well, they're not always doing the same type of film. But Celine Sciamma, I know I've messed this name up in the past. Ski or C?
Sciamma.
Oh, fuck me. I didn't do that right at all. And Sofia Coppola, actually. Sorry, guys.
Coppola.
Huh?
Coppola.
What did I do? Oh, God damn it. Okay, that's a New England thing. I'm sorry. My A's are terrible. Coppola. Good Lord.
Coppola.
I know, that was me exaggerating.
Oh, okay.
That was me poking fun, and now it looks worse.
Oh. I'm sorry.
We'll just have Evan cut all this out.
I hope he agrees to edit any of it for me.
I don't worry.
But yeah, so those two, Coppola and the other one, are really great, I feel like, in demonstrating kind of the ins and outs of it, and you know, just like kind of the delicacy that comes along with exploring it for the first time. And not in all of Coppola's films, but like Virgin Suicides, Marie Antoinette, and The Beguiled for sure. Mm-hmm. I feel like are good examples of it. But I don't know if you two could think of any either.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Maybe like Dee Reese with Pariah.
Yeah. I couldn't think of like filmmakers who do it consistently, but
yeah, that was my problem.
Yeah, but a lot of, I mean, I wrote down a bunch of examples of female film directors who represent it well in one of their films.
Yeah. And I think we shared one of them whose name I'm just not going to try again because
yeah, her Water Lilies is really good.
And same with even Tomboy and Girlhood. Mm-hmm. I feel like kind of explore it well. But yeah, that was my thing, is like I feel like there aren't, you know, it's like they get to do one film about that coming of age story and then they kind of branch out and do other things. But those were the ones that caught my eye, at least. So to go on to our closing segment, our new closing segment that I like a lot. What are you currently reading or watching or listening to that you would recommend to people? AJ, I'm honing in on you because you have something that I'm really excited about listed.
So I haven't been reading it yet, but I ordered it. The Astonishing Color of After by Emily Pan. I'm really excited to read this book. I've been following kind of, you know, the pre-release up until it's supposed to come out. And I've heard really, really good things. And it's her debut novel. So I'm just excited about women getting stuff done and having success. And like, it just makes me excited to see a young woman of color, especially, like, make a debut with something that's already gotten so much amazing praise. And I'm listening to Camp Cope. It's an Australian alt rock band, all girls, so good. Just bury me in my casket with a Camp Cope vinyl and I'll be fine. Like,
Right? Okay. The jet plane song or jet fuel song is like an anthem, man. Okay, for feminism.
All of Camp Cope's songs are certified bangers. And that's my take on that.
I am just so excited that you listen to them because I love them so much. But Gabby, what are you currently watching or listening to or reading?
Okay, so I suck at reading, but I am watching Atlanta and Superstore. Those are like my Saturday. We had Saturday morning cartoons. I have Saturday morning Hulu where I catch up and I watch Atlanta and Superstore. And I love them. I think they're just like they're both like kind of groundbreaking in their own way and kind of telling these really like specific stories that, I don't know, I just find so entertaining and interesting. And especially this past episode of Atlanta kind of breaks down just sort of the dynamics of Ern's relationship with his girlfriend, who's played by Zazie Beetz. And I just really liked how it's actually directed by Amy Seimetz, which I think she does Modern Family, and I don't want to say that's right. she has done like directed a lot of TV, but
and she was on she's done a bunch actually. I'll have to look that up while you're talking about it.
She's done a lot. So she directed that episode, and she kind of gave like Ern's girlfriend, I'm blanking on her name and I feel so bad, but Zazie Beetz' character a really like gave it to her perspective, and you really got to see Ern in a new life and how he's not really a good boyfriend and he can't like just partake in one day that is full of her interests. Like he has to he just can't be down with it, and it's very frustrating. And I think it's depicted so well, and that's just like what's great about Lance. It's like every week you don't know what to expect, and you get an episode like this and you're just like, wow, that was really good, and where I was not expecting that at all, like for them to go wear Lederhausen and go to this like Oktoberfest thing, but they did, and it was very, very well done.
I am so behind on Atlanta, and when I say so behind, I mean I've seen one episode.
I'm so behind, as in I haven't seen one episode or minute of Atlanta.
I know once I start watching, I'm gonna love. So I don't know why I don't. It's just, again, I was saying before we started recording that lately it's like if I don't start a show right when it starts, or if I fall off a said show, I have an impossible time getting back on it because I'm watching a lot. Like I'm arguably watching too much. But Superstore I do keep up with and love. Like I think it's one of the best. It's one of the two best sitcoms, I would think, right now. I think it's really underrated too. But like I just love it so much. I love having a character like Glenn on TV. He just cracks me up. And Dina, like I just think it's a perfect comedy. My two right now is I just started these two shows and they've been on my list for forever, but one of them's One Day at a Time. And I'm glad I'm kind of watching at the rallying time too, but I'm also part of the problem because I didn't watch it before. But I'm really, really loving it. Unsurprisingly. And I kind of it's like a comfort show. Like they discuss serious issues too, but it's also just, it's very reminiscent of sitcoms that I grew up with without that like kind of schmaltzy, candy coated sheen that I feel like makes it now. If like you go back and watch a Full House episode, you're like, I'm just embarrassed. Whereas this would actually age well. And then I just started Into the Badlands. Yes, it's because I just saw Tomb Raider and he's the reason I needed to go and watch it. But 2 wildly different shows. 2 shows I've been meaning to watch for a very long time, and 2 shows that I'm sure I'm going to love for very different reasons. So that's what I've been watching. I don't know if either. I know Gabby, you watch one day at a time. I don't know if you do at AJ or if you watch Into the Badlands. But
I don't, but I need to get into like an actual show and stick with it. So I'm gonna add those to my list.
One day at a time is like that show to do it for you.
Yeah,
once you get into it, you're just like so in love with this family, and just I mean, it's so good. I love it.
And it's easy to binge, which is nice. Because sometimes I get into shows and I'm like, I can't watch a lot of these. Like, this is heavy. But this, it's like you just want to keep pressing play. And again, it's good for me. It's good late night, like insomnia TV. Like, I can't sleep and it's midnight. I'm gonna throw the show on and feel better. So yeah, I really recommend those. So thank you all for joining us for another episode. You can find us on Twitter at Finding Her Voice, a handle that I swear to God I will keep up with someday. And you can find us on theyoungfolks.com. You can find me at Allison AJ on Twitter. And where can they find you too?
I'm on Twitter at Gabriella Dell.
And I'm on Twitter at AJ_Caulfield.
And for next month, we will be talking about the kind of the hypocrisy that goes into choosing directors for big budgeted films to align with the release of Avengers Infinity War. So that'll be an exciting one. Make sure to rate, review, leave comments, let us know what we should be doing, and watch along with the films we're watching. Otherwise, have a good one, and thank you for listening. Bye. Eventually, bye.